my friends at Microsoft Ignite. I'm so happy that you guys have joined me. This is actually a repeat session that we have. We did this session yesterday in the Expo Theater Hall. It was a pretty cool venue to be delivering these sessions in the Expo Hall, having 200 to 300 of your closest friends piling around for these sessions. Folks, our session today is going to be on my notes from the field on Storage Spaces Direct. My name is Dave Kawula. I am a Microsoft MVP, coming on 7 years, I believe now. And my primary specialty has been on storage and Hyper-V that whole time. All right, so some contact information for you guys. All right, so some contact information for you guys. I apologize, normally I'll stand up in front of there, but I've got to swipe. But actually, Emil, I have a job for you. Can you be my, my PowerPoint advancer specialist? Thank you very much. Very good, very good. See, 20-minute session, no problem. We've got this covered. So contact information for you guys. Number one most important thing for you guys right now, if you're not on Twitter, get on Twitter. This is where you're going to find experts like myself, especially on technologies like Storage Spaces Direct. You can follow me at Dave Kawula. All right, I've got a very special gift if you guys take and follow me today. And today is actually the last day of the promo for Microsoft Ignite. I wrote a book on Storage Spaces Direct, and I'm giving away the Kindle version of that book. I've got it as a pinned tweet at the top of my profile. Just click on my profile, click on the link, the book is yours. That is the gift for you guys. We also blog at checkyourlogs.net. We've got an over 40-part blog post series on my field deployment experiences with Microsoft Storage Spaces Direct. My contact info for emails up there. We also we also tweet at #MVP Hour. A lot of my MVP friends and I, we've been using that for a long time. We'll do live Twitter chats. If you guys have questions, you can ask them there. And if you have any questions after the conference and you want to reach out to the world experts on Storage Spaces Direct, we typically will tweet #Storage Spaces Direct. So if you want to look up any information, you can scroll through that thread on Twitter. Really good information for you guys. I'm all about giving you guys free stuff. Who likes free stuff here at Microsoft Ignite? I love free stuff as well. So I'm going to try to give you as much free stuff as I possibly can as part of this session. There we go. So before we get started, just show of hands, how many of you guys are actually using or have heard of Microsoft Storage Spaces Direct? You guys make me so happy. It's like half my audience. So what you have to do for my session, those of you that have already heard, set this up, deploy this, bear with me for the first 10 or so slides, just so that I can level set with everybody else. What is this software-defined storage infrastructure from Microsoft, okay? Then we're gonna get into the goodies of the presentation. Sound fair? All right, then what we're gonna do is I've got some cool goodies for you, some free scripts, and I've also got some really cool third-party tools and add-ons for Storage Spaces Direct, just for you guys. Okay, so to start off, I've become a PowerPoint animation expert throughout the experience of building decks. So let's just see how good of a job I did. There we go. See how the things just peel right off the screen? And watch, this is how servers get deployed in your infrastructure. You go onto like Dell.com and you order them, and what happens is they magically just fall into your racks. So your servers get racked and stacked and they're ready to go. That's quite literally how things happen, right? So let's take, for an example, we're going to want to use some software-defined storage, some hyper-converged infrastructure, all right? The concept of hyper-converged infrastructure is taking commodity servers, and we're going to take and join them together to form a pool of storage. So if I normally use Dell and HP as my examples. So if you're a Dell guy, this would be like a Dell R730XD chassis. They're the servers, the 2U servers with like 24 drive bays in the front. We're just going to use those drive bays as JBODs, okay? And if you're an HP guy, this would be something like a HP DL380 style, right? A G9, 24 drive bays in the back, couple drive bays, or 24 drive bays in the front, couple drive bays in the back. And we're going to put the OS on the drives in the back or on a dongle on the motherboard, all right? And we're going to use all those drives in the front for our available storage. Now we have to do some simple math for this presentation, all right? So in this example, I have 4 drives in each of these servers. I've got a total of 12 drives. Each drive, we're just going to pick a round number, 1 terabyte drives, 1 terabyte drives each. So each server has 4 terabytes, 12 terabytes total. Okay, so remember that number. So after we take and rack and stack those servers, what we're going to do is we're going to cluster them together. We're going to install Hyper-V role. It's really important we install the Hyper-V role because we use a new switch type with Hyper-V called a switch embedded team or a set team to deal with some of our RDMA traffic. Okay? We're going to install failover clustering, and we're going to cluster these things together. After we cluster them together, then what happens is you have to run a single line of PowerShell. All your network is set up. So let's just step back here a sec, all right? Are you guys familiar with the process of laying down an operating system on a server, right? Either from the ISO, automation through MDT, you're going to get that base operating system down, right? You're going to patch it, you're going to get a networking stack stood up, install a few simple roles. Easy enough, right? To set up storage spaces direct, all we have to do is run one command after the failover cluster is enabled, called enabled cluster S2D. When you do that, it's going to take those individual drives that were JBODs in those single servers, those 12 drives, 1 terabyte each, and form a pool of storage called a storage pool. If you're familiar with failover clustering, who in here has used Failover Cluster Manager before? Lots of hands going up. Excellent. Inside Failover Cluster Manager, you're going to see a component in there under storage called pools. So this is going to place this 12 terabytes as available storage in the pool, and you'll also see 3 enclosures in there, 1 for each of those servers. Then what we have to do, after we have the pool defined, is we have to create a volume. We create the volumes using the Resilient File System, or REFS, and they get presented back to the system as cluster shared volumes. So if you guys have done Hyper-V clustering in the past, and you're familiar with what cluster shared volumes are, they show up in C drive, cluster storage, volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. That's how these things are going to get presented back. So we're just leveraging some of the things you guys already know. Storage Spaces Direct comes as part of the failover clustering services. So after we have that pool, we can configure different tiers of caching and resiliency. So we can have a multitude of drives. So if you wanted to, you can have an all-flash array, which is what I normally will build. So 1 tier of just straight enterprise SSD drives. If you want to turbocharge that a bit, you can throw some NVMe flash in front of that. As long as your working set's going to fit inside of there, we can take and get a big boost in I/O and performance. Now for the builds that I've done with just using SSD drives, on a 3-4 node build, I'm pushing between 800 to over 1 million I/O inside of there. So I'm getting a lot of horsepower without having to turbocharge it with some flash. But you could also, if you needed a lot of capacity, put spinning Rust in there as well. So you can put spinning drives and just front end them with flash as well. Multiple tiers of resiliency are available for us in this configuration. A 2-way mirror, a 3-way mirror, a traditional erasure coding, and we call that a single parity or dual parity in the Storage Spaces Direct world. So a multitude of configuration options are available for you guys. After we pool those things together, we'll create our volumes for our cluster shared volumes, and voila, we can actually start placing virtual machines on this. But what if these things fail? Do things fail in your data center today? Sure. Do drives fail? Sure. Do servers fail? Absolutely. Depending on how your racks are configured, maybe you lost a PDU, maybe these things are spread out across a couple racks, so we can drop some drives. In this example, if we took and had a pool that was created with 12 terabytes, remember that number I gave you guys earlier where we had 1 terabyte drives, 4 per server, 12 terabytes total? If we created a volume that was set up as a 3-way mirror, you could actually drop drives on 2 servers at the same time, 2 different servers. We could also drop an entire server itself, or you could drop 2 servers. All your data would remain intact. You just need to make sure that you've got enough remaining compute, CPU, and memory space to balance out the remaining workloads. The favorite feature that I have with Storage Spaces Direct, guys, is one thing, and one thing very, it's very important. Hard power outages. How many of you have experienced a hard power outage in your data center before? Show of hands. Don't be scared, put up your hands. I know it happens. It's happened to me. Double PDU failure, same rack, whoop, gone. That's not good. UPS fails. Tested your batteries recently? You're gonna find out real quick as to how much juice you've got left. So what I'm telling you is a shutdown for your systems is a bad shutdown is powering it off, like yanking the power out. A safe shutdown is start shutdown. You don't always have the opportunity to do that, right? It's resilient. We've tested this in the field, and we have zero data corruption for all of our tests we've had. Lots of MVPs have tested this around the world. That is one of my #1 favorite features of this. It's because it's baked with REFS, and it's the way that it takes and writes and commits to disk. All right, very cool, right? All right, get past my cool automation. Now, when you're building something like this, how many of you guys have felt like you've had to take and reinvent the wheel when you've looked at Microsoft technologies like this, saying, oh, here's the servers, here's some spec documents, I'm gonna go have to pick through and build my own architecture. If you're architects in the room, don't worry, this isn't taking away from any of the things you get paid for. What this is gonna do, this Windows Server software-defined program, is going to turbocharge your projects, okay? So imagine taking all the stress and guesswork out of the builds in your infrastructure. So for example, Dell, HPE, Lenovo, Fujitsu, all have certified builds with Microsoft on Storage Spaces Direct. And if I missed any of the vendors, I do apologize. There's more vendors than that inside the program. The goal of this program is to take those commodity parts, send them over to Redmond, get Microsoft to bake them with the solution, run a 48-hour stress test on these things, and I want to see all the bugs, the bug checks, the blue screens, any of the issues, any of the errors, before they actually get out into the wild and out in the field. Now, that's just the start of this program, is being able to actually pass that stress test. The second part of this program is actually writing the reference architectures, the build guides, the firmware matrix guides telling you this particular firmware for this network adapter actually works. This driver for this network adapter works. This driver for this HBA works. This firmware for this HBA works. It'd be great to know that ahead of time before we start running into these issues in the wild. That's the goal of this program. The URL is right here. This session is being recorded, and the PowerPoint is available. So if you guys don't have a chance to take the pictures, the deck is available for you guys. Very cool program. I highly encourage you to check it out. I love the fact that Microsoft has done this because, quite frankly, one of the biggest pains in the butt for me with Hyper-V infrastructure was a lack of consistency in the builds in the field. Almost every single customer I went to built it slightly differently, and that was a problem. So this is trying to introduce standardization around the software-defined stack. Sorry, I'm trying to fit in. There we go. So, these vendor-defined solutions for you. My favorite one that I've seen in the industry right now, today, has been authored by Dell. Dell has a series of Storage Spaces Direct Ready nodes called Dell EMC Ready nodes for Storage Spaces Direct. They've nicely built your Visios for you. They've nicely built your rack layouts for you. They've nicely built you a 70-page step-by-step how-to document on how to build this, including the setup of the entire network stack with System Center Virtual Machine Manager. Everything documented. But wait, there's more. This feels like a ShamWow commercial, doesn't it? If you guys order right now, you guys are going to get a bonus. So here's the bonus you're going to get. When you build all of this, one of the key components is your top-of-rack infrastructure. Wouldn't it be great if they gave us the sample top-of-rack switch config so we knew exactly what ports to plug stuff into so things just worked when we tested this in the lab? Heck yeah, absolutely. But Dell's not the only vendor that's doing this. Some of my friends over at Mellanox Technologies are also doing this, and they also have top-of-rack switch designs, and they also have a fully documented solution on Storage Spaces Direct. I'm telling you guys, this is what you need to take your project and take it out of the incubator and bring it to life. And you can actually start your project off like this so that when your executives say, what is it that you want this funding for? You've already got all your architecture documents quasi-finished for you. You're going to tweak and tune them to however you guys need, but having those references and having those industry samples is great. Every vendor's committed to getting this out. So I know that I was speaking to some of the guys from Micron, and they were working with HPE, so HPE's got a new one that's going to be coming out of the mix. So talk to your vendors, ask them if they have these if you can't find them. I've got most of them documented up on my blog as well. All right, so DIY solutions. What if you guys wanted to just do this in a 2-node config? How many of you guys support like small to mid-sized business customers? One of my favorite parts about Storage Spaces Direct is providing HA solutions to my SMB customers. I've been able to get this to work in a non-RDMA configuration, you just by direct connecting two nodes together. So this is an example with a switch, but I can also take the DAC cables from two nodes and just direct connect the 10 gig cards, and it works fine. So that means that you don't even necessarily need to go buy 10 gig infrastructure to get started with this. Now you're thinking to yourself, storage space is direct, great, fine and dandy. Dave, you wrote a book on this. The book is free for you guys as your gift, remember? What if I wanted to build this in a lab? So if I wanted to build this in a lab, here are 3 great examples of lab scripts. How many of you guys have heard of nested virtualization before? It's a feature with Hyper-V with 2016. Hurrah! It came out. We were waiting for that for a long, long time. I've got my big demo script on my GitHub repo for you guys here. We'll build a 2, 4, 8, 16 node config. Use it as however you want, but it'll actually build that environment out for you in a private fenced off virtual switch, and it'll take and actually even build the domain controllers for you. It'll build management servers, and the best part is you get code to see how to actually automate all that with PowerShell. Now, if you guys are more advanced with PowerShell and you like to do things with PowerShell DSC, so who likes to use PowerShell DSC in here? This is an example right here from the guys at Microsoft Premier. They do pretty much the same thing, but they use desired state configuration for that build. So cool, 2 examples. And if you don't have the hardware to build this on your laptop and you want to build this up in Azure, you can do nested virtualization up in Azure as well. And you can also have some ARM templates that are ready to go for you. So pretty cool. We can build it on hardware, we can build it in the lab, we can get started. How I normally get set up with my customers, guys, is I get them started with either my big demo or the Premier version of this, and I'll get them using storage spaces direct in the gap between when they order the hardware to when it actually lands on the dock. Recently, I've had a big issue with delays in shipments. Anybody else get hit by the delays in solid state drives? I had like 4 months that I was waiting for some gear. So in the meantime that I was waiting for the 4 months for all my hard drives to show up, I actually had them playing with everything in the lab, all of the configurations. They had run through that config so many times that by the time the actual gear got in, they felt very comfortable with actually setting all this up. So it's a great training and it's a great learning tool for them. Okay, one more thing and then we're gonna get to the good stuff. Sound good? The secret sauce behind Storage Spaces Direct is RDMA, and it's actually RDMA over Converged Ethernet, or it's known as Rocky, like, you know, Rocky Balboa, but spelled a little differently, ROCE. What happens is you buy what are called, your network adapters that you buy have to be compatible with RDMA. So you have to make sure you're buying the right ones. The most popular ones that we've seen in the field, and most of these designs from Dell, HPE, Lenovo, is by a vendor called Mellanox Technologies, and they use a CX3 Pro card. That's the one that most of them certified their designs on, and it's a fully compliant card. And so basically what ends up happening is when we copy packets over the wire from machine to machine, what happens is normally there's pressure that's put on the local system to take and push that up through the network switch and over to the other side. So I have ingress and egress flow of traffic on either side, and what we have to do is we have to get the traffic there somehow. With RDMA, what ends up happening is we offload all of that. So if I did a stress test on a server and I had Task Manager open, you know, you can open Task Manager, and with Task Manager you can take and you can see your network traffic and see the utilization on your network adapters. If I did that with an RDMA enabled network adapter, you'd just see a few bytes going across, even if I'm saturating the card at full 10 gigs. So it's offloading a lot of pressure off your storage switches. It's offloading a lot of pressure off the host CPU as well, because the burden is being taken by the card itself. All right? So very, very cool technology, but requires some configuration. You need to make sure your switches support this, and you need to do your homework. You actually need to install a role on Windows Server called Data Center Bridging and enable all your QoS policies and your tagging policies to make sure this works, as well as making sure that that traffic runs over a tagged VLAN. Okay? So, what if you didn't have this infrastructure and you wanted to take and you wanted to get this going? You can actually use a different type of card called an iWarp card, which will allow you to take and run this traffic without having any custom switch configuration and without having to have a whole bunch of extra configurations on your boxes. So a lot of vendors right now, because of the complexity with this, they're coming out with option 2, on a lot of those solutions, which is an iWarp solution. I just haven't seen those design guides coming out from the vendors yet. It will work, but haven't seen the design guides. I'm getting the nod that I have like 1 minute left, so that's all right. I've got a couple extra minutes behind. So are you guys ready for the good stuff? Who's ready for the good stuff? 19 minutes into my 20-minute session? No problem. So, number one. Oops, went too fast. If you're using RDMA or Rocky, then make sure you configure your data center bridging. Make sure you configure all that properly. We just talked about that. If you're not using that, don't enable that inside of those scripts. All those scripts and in those guides are going to assume that you're using Rocky. Make sure that you chop that out of your configurations. It does not work. It does not perform very well and will cause system stability issues. Okay, next one. This one's my most favorite. If you have a build, and I was actually just talking with the gentleman in the front here prior to us getting started with the session, was your firmware drivers that you have in the system. In those build guides, they've tested a specific firmware version, a specific driver version. Don't be that guy that needs to go test the very latest thing that just dropped from the vendors. Because you want to know what? We probably haven't tested it in the field, and the vendors probably haven't fully tested it either. And unless there's a very, very compelling reason, leave that stuff alone, all right? Leave it alone until you get an updated build guide or an updated certification build guide that says that it's okay to do this, because think they have to go re-regression test all of this stuff inside those guides. Stick with what you know works. If you bought a Dell EMC ready configuration, said to use all these drivers and firmware, and you didn't do that, they're just going to make you revert, and you're going to have a lot of work on your hands, okay? All right, next one. Storage jobs. Because we're using software-defined storage, because we're using Hyper Converged storage, would you say that Patch Tuesday is a pretty common event? We can enable something called cluster-aware updating. Let's say I had a 4-node cluster, and I wanted to go patch node 1. Well, what happens when you patch node 1, folks? Does that thing not reboot? Yes, it does. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing for software-defined storage? We plan for this because we have multiple levels of protection, so that we choose, if we had a 3-way mirror, we could actually survive 2 nodes going down. But what happens when that node actually comes back online? It needs to rebuild, it needs to rebalance, it needs to restripe all of that data from all the changes that have occurred since it's been rebooted or off. So we found in the field that these jobs would stall on reboots. And to fix it, all that you'd have to do is change this cluster shared volume ownership to another volume, and the jobs would kick in. There's a new issue that's come up for storage maintenance mode with the September cumulative update. That's pretty common out there right now. But this one here, if your jobs get stuck, it's a quick and easy little fix for you. All right, I'm almost done. Please be patient, bear with me. All right. Now, do you guys want Storage Spaces Direct to work on any piece of hardware, non-certified? Microsoft's going to be mad because this is a totally unsupported way of doing things, but you may have some old hardware in your data center, right? Maybe some old HP DL380 G8s that you've taken and decommissioned. Okay, not fully supported, but great test platform to try this out on. Let's say you wanted to actually try to build this out physical and give this a go. Storage Spaces Direct will only support a certain bus type when it's built. Otherwise, the tooling will fail when you go to set it up. So if you modify this setting right here, you'll actually enable this to run on a RAID bus type. So the RAID bus type right here, this will take and this will enable you to run this on any type of a RAID configuration. You don't have to get a new controller, and the bottom one will enable it on all RAID types. So I just got the big hook, so I've got a couple minutes to wrap this up. Hold on one sec. I've only got a couple slides left, sorry. So the next one here is that who likes reporting solutions? Do you guys like reporting solutions? I sure do. I don't like to have to drive all these things out of PowerShell. I like GUI reports. My bosses like GUI reports. Show of hands for who likes GUI reports and who likes dashboards. Who has these with Storage Spaces Direct right now? Not very many hands went up. Well, you do now because the friends over at Starwind Software actually built these reports for you. And my #1 favorite word at Microsoft Ignite is free. That's right. It's absolutely free for you. Here's the link. Just go to starwindsoftware.com. You can download Starwind Manager. And with Starwind Manager, you get pretty reports like this for Storage Spaces Direct. Now, there's other advancements that Microsoft's made around this with Project Honolulu that was announced this week. You're going to have good reporting in there as well with Project Honolulu. This is available for you today. And then my favorite part, I actually didn't take the full screenshot, is down at the bottom you can see the jobs that are stuck and you can throw them up on a dashboard in your NOC. So it's like kind of a cool little reporting solution. And the last one here for you, this is the very last one, I promised you guys so much, so this is the last one, is how about stress testing your environments? You guys like to stress test your environments before you get started? You're going to go download a tool called VM Fleet. It's the same tool that Microsoft ends up using when they take and they tell you that they're getting 6 million I/O off these new Intel servers with Optane and all of that stuff. It's the same tooling that they use available for you guys to test on your environments, all right? But there's a little script inside of VM Fleet. The little script inside of VM Fleet called watch-cluster can be tweaked. All you have to do is just change this value right here. It's like around like line 20 of the script. All you're going to do is change the CSVFS to an asterisk or a wildcard. And what this is going to do is going to change the default script from looking like this, which is actually pretty cool. It's a 2-node cluster. I'm getting 400,000 I/O out of that 2-node cluster. Pretty good. To something like this. This was a screenshot of another box. But now, look at all the details that you get. So that's a hidden little tweak inside of VM Fleet that is absolutely amazing, totally free of charge. I told you guys you'd get a lot of things free coming to my session. All right. Last and most important thing, if you guys like this session, evaluations. Make sure you guys fill out the evals. I really appreciate it. I know that this is only a 20-minute session and I try to cram like 8 hours of info into here, but I have a solution for all of you. Come visit me in the Solution Expo. I'll be at the Hyper Converged area with around Hyper-V. Come on down there, we can go chat. I'm gonna be there for the balance of the day today. I'll be there tomorrow. Let's come chat all things hyperconvergence. I really hope you guys like the session. Enjoy the book, and thank you guys very much.